Hey everyone, and welcome to the People's Health Alliance. By the people, for the people, empowering people over their own health and well-being. My name's Shirley Blanch. I'm a mindfulness coach and meditation teacher. And today I am joined by the wonderful Morten Bonde, who's going to be telling us all about his story about how he went from being a senior art director at the Lego Group to being a mindfulness coach himself, and how mindfulness really helped him when he found out that he was losing his sight. And he's got an amazing story, and he's going to be telling us all about it today. Morten, welcome to the People's Health Alliance.
Thank you very much, Shirley.
So it's great to have you here. It's great to hear your story. If you can just take us back. So you were sort of in the Lego Group, which is a big corporate organization. You had a very responsible job, which relied quite heavily, I would imagine, on your ability to be able to see because you were
Yeah,
an art director.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. I worked for the Lego Group since 2009 till 2022, and yeah, just rewind even further because in 2002 I was diagnosed with this rare genetic condition that would render me blind over the years, and that was when I was 29 years of age, and when you are when you are 29, you kind of have your whole life in front of you. So I decided back then to just kind of pretend that I didn't hear this sentence that I was getting from the ophthalmologist. So I continued just walking on this path of being an art director, and it was in 2016 that my body finally said, you are the worst driver of this body that, that I can imagine. So it kind of decided to just throw me some heavy depression and stress, and I was sort of, on sick leave for quite some time back then. And that is where this change of path actually started.
So there was a you heard the news, you didn't take the news in, you didn't want to hear it, so you almost pretended that it hadn't happened. And there
Yeah,
was a period of time, wasn't there, where you were you were having to hide what was happening to you in your job and probably from yourself as well.
yeah, and I think it was because I was avoiding having to face that I eventually would become blind, and also it was very impractical to lose my driver's license. So because I was driving, and it was up to me to kind of, you know, tell people around me that I couldn't drive any longer just by going to the ophthalmologist every year and sort of getting my field of vision uh, tested, and I didn't do that. So I kind of just pushed through everything, and then in 16 my body couldn't continue doing what it did, and that was when I had to go to the ophthalmologist office, or get this sort of tested, and he could tell me that I was legally blind. So I was actually legally blind without really knowing that I was legally blind. Yeah.
Wow. And I guess because it's something that's happening very gradually and very slowly, you didn't even notice the progression. But
Well, I did notice it, but I just didn't want to.
yeah,
I noticed it, and I had to share it with people that I was working close with, but I didn't really share how bad it was, and so no one really knew that. So I was just
but but would you
yeah.
have known you were actually legally blind? Would you have known it was that bad that you would have been classed as legally
No,
blind at that
no.
point?
It was a surprise also, and that's why I was still driving, obviously. And when
Yeah,
I was told I was legally blind, I immediately decided never ever to do that again. So,
yeah.
so yeah,
And so when you were there, that must have been an incredibly stressful situation, sort of living a lie really, and having to
yeah,
cover things at work. So
yeah,
you would have to start pretending you could see things and when you couldn't. And
yeah. And it was ridiculous because I was approving, very expensive video productions for the Lego Group, of commercials that would air in the whole world, and I was sort of the final. approver of these projects. And so I was just, people thought that I was just very thorough because I wanted to see the TV commercials 10 times, and they thought, oh, my man, he's just a very, really thorough guy. But I was just scanning along, so I was just focusing on areas at the time. So yeah, it was stressful, and yeah, and I couldn't continue doing it. Obviously, that when we came to 16, and it was about 14 years that I did, that worked like this. Yeah, the body just said no more, and then we had a new situation on our hand.
So you had to then come to terms with it. So it was reality hit. There was absolutely no way you could deny it. You were forced to face it. This is a massive change, and you sort of, how would you describe that time then?
Yeah, it was, I think it was in the summer of 16 until winter, actually 3rd of December, 16. I had this sort of, this, I was going through a lot of different things because they knew now at work, and then everyone knew that I had this condition, and I kind of experienced that I got more and more, uh, you know, I actually almost lost the will to continue living. No, it sounds so dramatic. It's not that I planned not to be here, but I was just coming to this. What am I going to do? Who am I
Mm,
if I'm not who
mm.
I am playing as a role? It wasn't that obvious at that point, but I had this moment when I was sitting with my counselors and my advisors, and the municipality, and everyone who kind of helping me figuring out how to live with a condition. Now I was legally blind. I was a person with a handicap, and and I didn't know who I was. And I was sitting in that office, and we were talking about clauses and procedures and all that. And then I had this weird experience. I felt that, even though people were talking, it was kind of in a dream. We didn't really hear what they were saying. And then I had this, rock bottom experience where I felt that now this is the end. They're talking about me retiring, and who am I now? And then I had this enormous feeling of relief. But it was kind of inevitable. It was a no turning back moment where I had to admit to myself, now I'm here. And then there was this enormous release of stress, and I felt so free, and I felt so relieved. And then I heard a strong voice in my head, because up to then I had a very strong voice in my head, always sort of telling me what I couldn't do, and I should be careful of this, and I shouldn't share this, and very not nice person sitting on my shoulder whispering in my ear. And then I heard a new voice, and that voice said, Morten, what do you want out of life? And that was sort of a waking up moment. And I stood up and I said, sorry, I have to leave. And I just left. And then I started looking, at life from a new perspective, from a perspective of, if I can't avoid this, if I can't change this, can I somehow change my perspective on it? Can I change the way that I look at all this blindness stuff? Instead of saying to myself constantly, "Oh, you're gonna be blind and you can't do this and that," and that voice speaking all the time, could I somehow find a new way to look at this and see an advantage, a possibility in that? And that's when I started just rediscovering everything, reboot, almost.
When you look back at that moment now, because you clearly remember it very, it wasn't like a gradual thing. It was something that suddenly happened to you. What do you think that was? If
Yeah,
have you
yeah, I
ever thought about
speculate.
that?
Yeah, I speculate because then I started reading, and I actually not reading, listening audiobooks, because I stopped driving, so I had to commute a lot, public transportation. So I spent a lot of time, 3 hours every day. So I was just constantly listening, and I actually walked also for an hour. So I spent 4 hours, you know, commuting, and I started listening, and I listened a lot of, actually, and I was going back to really ancient times, trying to figure out why are we the way we are today? Why are we in this hamster wheel, all of us, and why do we choose this, and how much is sort of conditioned? And I think that I I think what I experienced was what you could call a whole brain activation moment, sort of a
Wow.
gamma burst, like the whole brain was just lit up, and there was this deep connection. And I don't know if this is true. It's just what I think of today. So I have this theory that this moment, facing sort of identity death, it made sort of a reboot of the brain, the connection from the heart to the brain. And I just saw so clearly that I was on a path who was leading to what I call hopelessness street, and I had to figure out how can I somehow correct the course to possibility road. And that was enough. That was so impactful. It left such a mark that after the experience, I kept remember the feeling of, okay, I have to do something. I have to know. I have to learn. I have to consume all the knowledge that I can get my hands on. So, and it's so extreme, because when I do it today, if I say to myself, "Oh, I want to get in shape," uh, I start training, and after a month or so, it's like, oh, I don't want to do it anymore. So I've been trying to figure out that motivation thing, like that finding that purpose. What is it that makes people sort of, invent things, and just, having an idea and just pursuing it and doing it all over, continue, continue, continue. So it's so interesting that that moment was sort of yeah, pivotal moment in my life, and I tried to figure out how can I do it
Because
again?
it never
Because
left you, did
yeah,
it? It's like one of those moments, like you say, we can start and we can have an idea to do something, and then we get motivated, and then we lose motivation.
yeah,
But that was obviously such an important moment for you, and something that really impacts you, not just on a mental level, but on a physical level, on an emotional level.
yeah,
And I would say, from my own experience, possibly a spiritual level, but that's just my perspective on it, that it was so profound that it's the thing that sustained you, hasn't it, and kept you going on this path, to finding that knowledge, because it wasn't something that you just happened that day and a couple of days later it changed. That was a
no,
moment where your life completely changed. And so
yeah,
you started sort of learning more. How did mindfulness come into that? Because you said you were reading and listening to
yeah.
things, and
Well, I think mindfulness came in before this, and it was, I was looking for ways to continue doing what I was doing. So how can I cope? How can I find strategies that will enable me to stay in this hamster wheel? So, and mindfulness was one of the things that you know, it's a buzzword, right? Every company and every
mm,
organization have a MBSR program or something. So I was looking for a fix in a way. So at that point, I didn't really understand it. So I was a lot of the clients that come to my practice is, yeah, they are looking for a way to be fixed. So say, let's do this thing and I'll be fixed. And it's not it's not like that at all. So I started out like that, and then I started getting wiser or more knowledgeable. So I started, oh, okay, there's sort of a very pixelated image that's getting very sharp now. I understand what mindfulness is as I go along. So I was just doing it, and then the sort of the higher knowledge, or the wisdom came sort of as I was doing it. And it again, I think in my book I said I was a person who had to understand everything before accepting everything. And I
yeah,
started doing the opposite. I said, okay, now I accept that something is happening. Maybe I will never understand it, or maybe I will, but it doesn't really matter right now. Right now, I just accept that this is somehow doing something, and I can't explain what it is. And then, so it was the opposite. I was just accepting that what I was doing was helping, but I didn't understand it, and I didn't try to understand it. And then, yeah, it was turned upside down, actually.
There's an element of surrender, isn't there?
Exactly, exactly. And I think the surrender moment was in this sort of with the municipality office, and I was sitting there, and I think I surrendered to the fact that I am becoming blind, and it was an identity death, like the Buddhists say, you know, die before you die, a death before your death. So having this moment where you actually release yourself from that old identity, I think that was happening there, and it was so impactful that I kind of said to myself, okay, I thought I had figured everything out. I was in my mid 40s, and I knew how to live my life. I knew to how to do things, and I just said, oh, probably, you know, there 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 are probably multiple, almost maybe in infinitely many possible ways to live your life that I haven't discovered. So what if I just open my eyes and get curious about how to handle this sort of machine, this body that I have, and maybe relearn to use it in a way. So that was yeah, that was what happened. And it was quietly. I didn't share it with anyone. I just did it because I felt not doing it would be sort of my death. I would be this unhappy person for the rest of my life.
So can you give me some examples then? Because this is, I love this because there's a lot talked about mindfulness from a sort of academic perspective, I
Mm,
suppose, and the theory of it. But what I love about your story is that you had to surrender to and go into complete acceptance, which is a big part of that.
yeah.
How did it show up in your life from a practical perspective? Can you give me some examples of a time where you actually put it to practical use? Because I think that that's what people need to hear about, because I think it's very easy to talk about the theory behind it, but understanding
Yeah.
how you can put it into practice in your everyday life is really important.
Yeah, and I think when I started seeing that, getting out of my way was sort of what I had to do. So not, sitting because I want something to happen. So when you sit down in meditation and you think, oh, I need to be relaxed and I need to, so
Mhm.
I'm so stressed out, and I hope that this session, this sitting will make me feel better. And after 30 minutes, I'll probably feel better. So I started noticing that way of doing things was sort of in the old paradigm. That was the mind, that was the identity, that was the person trying to fix something. So I actually I took a different approach to it. I saw that when I was in my everyday business, walking around, experiencing life, then I had a very big challenge, and that was because I have this very narrow tunnel vision, and I can only see actually what I'm looking at. I was being distracted and disturbed all the time by sounds and things that were happening. So when someone dropped something, I had to, I was trying to figure out where it was. So my curiosity was totally taking over, and I was just, where is it? Where is it? And I know what it is that I heard. That someone dropped a glass, and I had to see it. I had to be there. I had to get all the drama and all that. So in my everyday life, I started using those moments to just notice that it was a sound. It was probably a glass. I don't need to look. I can continue what I am doing. I was eating my lunch. I was seeing something. I so I stay my attention on what I was doing, and that was actually a mindfulness practice in a way that I didn't know. I didn't call it a mindfulness practice, but it was something about uh, not controlling, but steering my attention to what I want to put my attention on, and stay there and be with that. And that's much similar to what you're doing in mindfulness meditation, where you either focus on your breath or you focus on an area of your body, and then you train your attention and your awareness to stay on something for a period of time instead of being sort of monkey mind all around. So when I learned that my nervous system and my stress and my heart rate was getting down because I didn't sort of pursue every sound. I didn't have to know what was going on. I could be content with just knowing that something happened, but I don't need to know more, and I can go back to my focus, what I was doing. So that application sort of helped me not be so stressed, and then it just gradually built, and I got more and more into it, and I noticed more and more things, and I studied more and more things, and yeah, so it was because I kind of had to do it. I couldn't say, never mind. No, I can do it tomorrow or next week or whatever. No, I was in it. It was in my life. I had to train myself to be more mindful of what I was doing and what I was thinking and what I was feeling. So it's always easier when you have this sort of a really tangible, practical problem where you can apply this to.
And I know you've said to me before that you kind of worked a lot with gratitude as well, and sort of reframed your thinking around things in situations where maybe you would have got stressed before. You changed the way that you thought about things as
Yeah.
well. And that was another aspect, wasn't it, of
Yeah,
you
I
changing the
came
way you
up.
saw the world.
Yeah, I came up with this mission when I was researching, and I was trying to. I came up with this after this experience. I had this sort of phrase in my mind that said, if I can't change blindness, can I change my perspective on becoming blind? Can I become a person who can see possibilities instead of limitations? And that was sort of a mission in a way. And I knew from reading a lot of Joe Dispenza, for instance, and Bruce Lipton, and this habitual mind that if I had to change, if I wanted to change subconsciously how I was perceiving things, I had to rehearse something over and over again. And I said to myself, okay, if I for 4 months will rehearse to view my reality differently, there will be results after 4 months. So, and there's a dichotomy here because, again, I talked about not having a purpose and a mission and all that, but here I actually said to my ego, to my mind, you have a mission. It's okay. 4 months. That's something you can see 4 months ahead, and then we train all these things. And my ego said, yeah, let's do it. So it accepted. And then I came up with this idea for 30 days. That was the first challenge that I gave myself. That was my stop swap thought month, I call it. And I simply for one simply but for 1 month I had to notice every time that my mind was sort of blaming something or someone, or talking negatively about a situation I was in. And then I had to say stop, swap thought, and then I would have 5 seconds in my mind to come up with an opposite a ruling or a judge over the situation that was positive instead. So I had to stop, notice that I was I was in this situation, just observing what is, and then I would have to accept that this is what it is. This is where I am right now. And then I could concentrate on figuring out how to go to the next now from this, state of acceptance that I'm in now. So I was rehearsing. So when the bus was late and the rain was falling, and I thought it was a sketchy situation and I hated it. And I had to stop, swap, thought, and then it was 5 seconds, and okay, I have more time listening to audiobooks. I have more time to meditate. I learned from the 30 days that we have this inner judging system, and it has a tendency to judge negatively. It has a tendency to see things a little worse than they are. And I kind of I kind of learned that through these 30 days, that often I judge the situation, so the situation becomes a bad situation, instead of having this sort of, you know first, beginner's approach, like a child seeing the situation, then, okay, more time for audiobooks, great. So yeah, I gradually started implementing all these things in this mission, and yeah, it changed who I am in these 4 months. Yeah,
I love that. I love your stop swap thought thing. It quite often comes in my head when you first told me about it, and if I find myself doing it, I love that. And I think it's a really great way of you're training your brain, aren't you? You're training your
yeah,
brain to look for the positive rather than looking for the negative, which is understandable because our brains are designed to help protect us. So, you know, we do tend to look for the negative because that's what our brains were designed to do to protect us.
exactly. Yeah.
But you've retrained your brain just by having that motivation and that idea that you were going to do that for a set period of time. So I absolutely love that as a practice. So this has completely changed your life now. You're no longer senior art director at Lego. You've done some amazing things. So I introduced you as a mindfulness coach, but that's really downplaying all the things you've done because you're an author, you're a speaker, you've done loads of amazing things. So that this one thing that you thought was going to end your life, if you like, has opened up a whole new life to you, hasn't it? So tell us
Yeah.
about some of the things you've done, because you've even done a TED talk, haven't you? It's incredible.
Yeah, I did a TED talk in, I can't even remember when it was. A couple of years ago, I did it, and I wrote a book called "Sentenced to Blindness. Now What? A Journey from Hopelessness Tree to Possibility Road." And you know, I've been giving this talk that actually was the mission was to share this in a story. You know, I created this story along the way while I kind of transformed my view on becoming blind. And the story is a 2 hour talk, and it is a book, 500-page long book. And that was sort of what would train this habitual subconscious system to, not only be at this and be with this for a couple of weeks, and then, then you go back to do what you normally do because it's easier. So I was just in it for years actually, because it took a couple of years to write the book, first in Danish and then afterwards in English. So so this message has been shared with 11 countries now. Not that I've been to all these countries, but online, obviously through Zoom and Teams, and I've been to the UK and the US and the Netherlands, and going to France this summer. So a lot of things came out of this, and yeah, so it's 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 so interesting. But I never really set out to do this. Like, now I'm gonna be a public speaker. I'm gonna write books. The motivation was, how can I become a version of myself that my sons will mirror themselves in? So they are seeing that their dad is losing his vision, and how is he coping with that? That was actually the thing that I wanted. I didn't want them to see that I would give up, and then I would pass that on to them, that you just, can't cope with difficult situations. So I wanted them to see that, well, I I have decided to thrive with whatever comes, and I'm gonna accept that. And it sounds like, well, I got this figured out. It's an everyday process. I get frustrated all the time, and then I just wake up to it and I say, okay, yeah, it's okay. It's actually a difficult situation. I take care of myself. I hug myself and say, you're doing a great job, Morten. And so that inner voice is now helping me, instead of saying, ah, you loser, you should, because you're blind, you can't do this. So I'm very conscious of my inner dialogue now.
I love that. It's very mindful, but I love the fact that your the way your legacy, if you like, is 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 how your sons see you more than anything else, and inspiring them as a parent. I think that's really incredible. So what sort of things, if people want to find out more about what you do, where can they go to find out about your work? And if they wanted to book you for a talk or wanted to book a coaching session, do you only see people one to one in
Yeah,
person,
I do that.
or do you do online as well?
Well, I mostly, do one-to-ones here in Denmark, where I live. but I also do one-to-ones on various Zoom, Teams platforms. But if people want to read more about me, see more what I'm doing, they can. The easiest way is to simply go to my website, which is my name, mortenbonde.com, and they can see what I'm up to. My TED talk is there also, and yeah, just
And you have a YouTube as well, don't you?
yeah, I do. I think it's there's a link to it at the bottom of the website, and I'm afraid there's a little bit of a mixing between Danish and English, but that's also an experience. So when people get frustrated about that, they can use that as a mindfulness waking up thing to okay, do I need to get angry about this, or can I just look for the English language YouTube videos that are on there? So
Oh, that's wonderful. I could speak to you for hours, but we are limited on time. What we will do though is we will put the all the information in the description with the video. And I'm so grateful because I love your story. It's such, because I think it's so easy to get into that mindset of when things happen in our lives that we weren't expecting, we didn't want to happen, to go through this whole process of catastrophizing what our future is going to look like. And I think what you've done really well is you've shown that you don't know how things are going to turn out in the end. And
yeah.
you never know how you can, with a change of mindset and a change of approach, how you can actually change your reality and change your future. And so I think it's such a positive and inspiring message. And I'm so grateful for you to come along today and share that with us.
Yeah, maybe if I can just say that, the reason why I started coaching people and having clients in sessions was that when I was done with my talk, I could see often that people were kind of okay. You opened our eyes, you opened my eyes, but I have no idea where to go from this. You have my attention. I can feel that I have to do something. So the next natural step was for me to educate myself to become an educator. So how can I actually put this into sort of a framework that people can work with instead of having this, it's very esoteric, and it can be very fluffy and sort of difficult to grasp. So that's the reason why I started doing sessions with people, because I could see that I was leaving people like in a vacuum afterwards. So you opened my eyes and you just leave. So
Now
so
what?
this is yeah, exactly. Now what? Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's really amazing. Thank you so much, Morten, for sharing your story with us today. It's been really inspiring, and I always love speaking to you. So thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Thank you very much, Shirley, and you too.
So thank you everyone for listening as well. If you want to find out more about Morten, you can go and check out his website. We will put a link in. What's the name of the website, Morten?
Yeah, it's Morten Bonde, like my name, and
Mhm.
then .com. So it's if you got my name right, it's just a dot and a com afterwards. It's
Okay, fabulous. That's brilliant. And yeah, thanks everyone for listening. If you want to find out more as well about what the PHA does, you can check out the website, which is the-pha.org. Go there. There's some great practitioners on there. There's some great content and information on there as well. So please do check that out. And I look forward to catching up with you again soon. In the meantime, do take care. I'll see you soon. Bye bye.